today. So first of all, feel free to put on your videos. This is definitely an interactive event. Everybody's home, everybody's working remotely. So we know that you're gonna be at your house. You know, we might see some people walking in the background. So don't be shy to put up your screens. A couple of things for today's agenda, right? So what are we going to be discussing in this panel today? So Tahira is really going to walk you through the lifetime job support process that Wyncode offers. We're going to be hearing from our speakers, and they're going to be sharing their experience not only about Wyncode, but also their experience making the transition into a technical career, and also how they've been doing and how they've been able to manage. And then of course, we'll conclude the evening with an open Q&A session for all of you to ask directly your questions, okay? So at any point, if you have any questions or specific things that you want to ask in between, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. Otherwise, at the Q&A session, you'll have the opportunity to unmute yourselves. All righty, so well, as we get started, just wanted to give you a couple of rundown on what Wyncode is about, what our programs entail, and what all our students have gone through. So Wyncode is a coding bootcamp that was first founded in 2014, and we've been able to hire so many graduates, and Tahira is going to give you a little more details on that. So what we really look for is to develop the skill sets in all our students for full stack web development and UX UI on a full-time basis. Now, this enables our students to gain those technical and professional skills that they need to set themselves apart in the job market and get hired within those industries, okay? So it's an immersive program. The next one's going to be starting on February 8th, and it's just 10 weeks. So as you're about to hear from Tommy, from Ben, from Will, in just 10 weeks, they were able to really pivot their careers, learn and retrain to now be where they are. And they're going to be able to share some of that with you. And this is just a little overview of our part-time programs. Many students ask me, I don't have the time availability, they're working full-time, and it can be really hard to make time for a career change or even, to enhance your skill sets. So we also have some part-time programs that you can learn from if you're interested. Okay, now the hardest part about attending a coding bootcamp, besides finding the time availability, is figuring out how you're going to be able to afford it, right? So in your search for a coding bootcamp, you may have seen so many different ones that maybe didn't provide us much financial support. But for Wyncode, our mission is not only to bring tech into our community, but also diversify tech. And one of the means that we're able to do that, if we walk the walk and talk the talk, is we have to support students financially. So we've been able to develop strong partnerships with not only Climb Credit and Emeritus for financing options, but also, with the Veterans Affairs for accepting the GI Bill for students. We've also have partnerships with Career Source of South Florida that is supporting students along their journey with full tuition rights. We have a Knight Fellowship that awards full ride scholarship to Wyncode and a 3-month internship. And then as well, we also have in-house scholarships to support students along the journey. So Wyncode has done, so many things to be able to provide financial support for our students. And this is something that is very at the heart of what we're all about, to be able to bring diversity into tech and bring all people from different walks of life into this new career change. So couple of things to keep you in mind as you attend this event this evening. Deadlines are quickly approaching for the upcoming one. I know that we have a couple of people in the event tonight that are already registered for this upcoming cohort and are going to be asking, best practices. That are interested in wanting to join, definitely reach out to us. We have our early application deadline coming up, and we also have one-day boot camps happening. So, to get a little bit more insight and more technical knowledge, make sure to check those events out, okay? Beautiful. Early applicant birds, that we get $500 off their tuition. Please reach out to us in admissions if you want to get in this program for full stack or UX UI for the next upcoming program. So without further ado, just, that was just a little introduction about Wyncode, about our programs and how we're able to support them financially. Now you're going to get to hear directly from the students that have gone through this experience, from having that first thought about, maybe I should go into web development, or how about these coding boot camps? All the way to, wow, I graduated, I have a full-time offer in my hand, and I'm about to sign and start working in this career. So you're gonna get to hear from that. And Tahira is gonna be asking questions to our panelists, but I'll let her introduce herself. So welcome, Tahira.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One thing I want to note and I want to share with all of you guys here is that what's really exciting about Wyncode is not only do we train you to become these newly minted technical professionals, we also don't leave you alone in the process. Once you graduate, the purpose of you graduating is you're looking to change careers, you're looking to find a new role, find a new job, and we do that by providing lifetime job support. So my role is I'm the hiring partnership manager here at Wyncode. And in my space, it's my responsibility along with my team to make sure that once you graduate, you are fully supported in this role. A little bit about me is formerly I was in education management at Teacher America, Georgetown University, the Cristo Rey Network. I love startups, so I'm clearly in the right business. The beach, so I'm glad I moved to Miami a couple months ago, and all things Nutella. I ask anyone here on the call, please find me on LinkedIn. Let's connect. I'd love to see where you are and where you're hoping to go in the future, because that's really where I really love the work that I do. So just a quick snapshot of Wyncode by the numbers. We've had over 850 graduates who've gone through our program, and we ensure a 90% job placement rate within 1 year of graduation. So we're only able to accomplish these great numbers because of our 450 hiring partners that we have committed to hiring Wyncoders. They trust us because we've been around since 2014. We're one of the earliest boot camps here in the area. And we have a wonderful, amazing staff of people, both on our Wyncode and Win Talent side, who really spend a lot of time working on you as a technical professional and helping you to and through the whole job support system. So during our program, there are a lot of different ways that we help you kind of build the skills you need for your new careers. We do professional development curriculum. We do presentation cycles to make sure that your skills are sharpened. We make sure that you're honed in and ready as a technical professional, so that you're not just thrown out into the world of the technical professionals without having any support. We also do this by having weekly win work sessions. So myself and my team come together and we find roles that are best suited for you as a new graduate, and we set you up for success. So that's a little bit about us during and after the program and how we really help you through finding your first role as a technical professional. So beyond Wyncode, we also have our sister organization, which is Win Talent. So if you go to the next slide, we'll see that we have Career Week, where you come in and you get a chance to get in touch with everything that's going on in the technical space as soon as you graduate. And we make these things available to you, and we open it up so that you guys are really able to have these skills honed in. Our sister organization, which I'm going to talk about now, Win Talent, is once you've gone through Wyncode and you found your first position with us here on the job support team, we don't just leave you. We have created an organization called Win Talent, where once you're looking for your second and third job, Win Talent is there as support to help you find those new roles. So when we say this is lifetime job support that we provide, we're not joking. We're here for your first job, your second job, and every job after that. So let's talk about these people who have made the brave, and wonderful challenge to change careers to web development in 2020. So let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Thank you, panelists, so much for joining us today. Just as a quick introduction, we have Emilio on the line, the founder and lead business intelligence consultant at Dashley. We have Sean, the integration specialist at Kirsch Foods. Liz, co-founder of Course Report. Diana, who I talk to quite often these days, a web developer. Tommy, software engineer at RBI. And William, the associate instructor at Wyncode. So we're going to hop right into these questions because I'm sure you guys did not here to come here to hear me speak, but you want to hear from these guys here. I'm going to ask this question to everyone here on the panel. Please just unmute and answer these questions as you're able. To everyone, what were you doing prior to Wyncode? And just give us a sense of what industry you were in before and why you decided to become a developer. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with Emilio.
Hi, how you guys doing? Thank you for having me here tonight. So before Wyncode, I had already founded Dashley, and we stuck primarily just in business intelligence, integrating data, working a lot on the back end. One of the reasons for me joining Wyncode was that we worked so closely with developers. We helped build data models. We helped architect data models behind software. And I never knew how software got built, right? Or how the web development world worked. And I was fortunate enough that I had a break where I was able to take, Wyncode existed and I was able to crunch the 10 weeks in real quick and get up to speed and learn everything. And then that's why I did it. And it ended up giving me a lot more tools than I imagined I was gonna gain within 10 weeks. And on top of that, not just the tools, but the friendships I made and the connections I made.
Absolutely. We at Wyncode here value the community we've been able to kind of build. So I appreciate that. Sean, same question.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, to second Emilio said, happy to be here, excited to contribute and just, riddle some knowledge on, this incoming class and everybody else. But prior to Wyncode, what I was doing was I worked in the maritime industry and primarily working in sales, customer facing roles and everything like that. I'm also a veteran. So I was in the military, Army, and I had always worked in I wouldn't say an IT capacity, but, familiar with technologies and different service options, things like that. And it was something that always intrigued me and I wanted to know more about it in a lot of different roles. One of my more recent roles in the maritime industry, I got to work hand in hand with developers, software engineers, solutions architect, and it just bothered me that I didn't know more about it. I went to Afghanistan on deployment in 2019, and I worked a little bit more with code and development on my deployment, and that's when I made the decision to move forward with Wyncode. I had a cousin of mine also that had gone through the program. He wasn't a veteran, but he helped kind of direct me in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, it's essentially my career and path of progression beforehand, and which led me to Wyncode.
I love that it's a family affair. That's great.
Absolutely.
That was the recommendation. Liz, we'd love to hear from you. Same question.
Well, so thanks for having me here at Wyncode. I'm not actually a Wyncode graduate. I run a coding bootcamp directory called Course Report, and we're a resource for prospective students who are choosing a coding bootcamp. So I'm excited to hear what all these alumni are up to now, and happy to answer any questions that folks have about bootcamps in general from maybe a higher level.
Awesome. I think we're going to be really excited to lean in more on the work that you're doing at Course Report. So I really appreciate that. Diana, same question.
Hey guys. So up until about April, I was a manager for an online retailer that sells personalized products for kids. My role there included everything from designing cute little plates to working on the website's SEO to shipping packages. So that's what I did for about 5 years. And I finally decided to take the jump and join Wyncode in July. Very excited. It was awesome. Great experience.
Awesome. One of our new grads, I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us about that. Tommy.
Yep. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. As for what I did before Wyncode, there's not much of a long story there. I was in college um, studying economics and marketing at right before and then in 2018, when I graduated, I hopped into Wyncode the very same month, and I've been coding ever since. Before college, high school, middle school. So there's not much of a history in terms of occupation before that. Everything I did after Wyncode was my first job. First career. So yeah, Wyncode is probably the start of my journey.
Awesome. Well, what a wonderful place to start your journey. I'm so glad that we had you here. Will you end us off with this?
Yeah, no problem. Hey guys, welcome. Glad to be here. So prior to Wyncode, I was a basketball coach at a public high school in Miami-Killeen Senior High. I loved being around, kids, coaching them. I was a former basketball player myself, so I was able to relate to them very much so. But unfortunately, it didn't really pay the bills as much as I'd like to. So it was funny because I had a conversation with a friend and he was like, man, we just hired 2 people at my job and they just went to a course for 10 weeks and they make more money than I do. I'm like, well, I want to do that. So I checked out an event. I was like, oh, this seems pretty doable. And then, I made the jump. I was like, you know what, I have 10 weeks to sacrifice. Let's do it. And, I kind of just jumped head first, and it was honestly the best decision I ever made. I totally changed my career path, and now I'm actually an instructor at Wyncode. So I couldn't be more blessed, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
Awesome. Will, just stick on that for a bit. How did you make that leap? You said you had those 10 weeks. How did you make that decision that this is what you wanted to do next?
I knew that tech, I use my phone every day. So I was like, let me just take a look back. I'm like, how can I, contribute to this in, somehow, some way? I know this is a field that's, constantly growing. The job market is expanding. So I was like, you know what, this is where my career path needs to change in order for me to, start, taking care of my family and doing the things I need to do as an individual. So, luckily my basketball season had just ended, and I wasn't coaching really, so I was like, you know what, it's either now or never. And I didn't want to like psych myself out. I was like, just do it. And, the worst thing that could happen is you learn a new skill. And luckily enough, I learned a fantastic skill, and I'm still continuing to learn to this day. And it was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life, and it was a life-changing decision. So
I love it.
A now or never decision.
Speaking of these decisions, Diana, your background is in marketing and e-commerce. What interested you in full stack web development? Love to hear that story.
So actually, when I started Spark and Spark, a friend of mine reached out to me. He's a software engineer, and he was like, Diana, I think this is something that you would really like. He knows me very well. I'm a very thorough person. I'm very detail oriented, and he knows how picky I am. So I just didn't pay much attention to him. Kind of stayed in the back of my head. And about 2 years passed, and I was like, you know what? Let me check it out. I did a 1-day boot camp at Coding Dojo, which is another place. Went to Wyncode, actually, checked them out. But unfortunately, the money wasn't there. The time wasn't there, just couldn't do it. And pandemic hit. And I said, you know what? I'm going to finally take a chance on what's been kind of knocking at my door for the past like 4 to 5 years. And I did it, and it was pretty awesome.
I love it. I love it. Those are the kind of stories that we love to hear here. I'd love to hear more, Emilio. Has Wyncode provided you with the tools to help you run your own business intelligence company? Yeah,
it's been actually a lot more than I thought it was going to be. So I've been out of Wyncode for a year now. And before Wyncode, every time I would work on data projects, somehow I'd always leap over and they would come and say, hey, can you just build this for us? And I'd be like, no, and I'd have to turn them away. And now heading into 2021, we're actually funded more on the web development part than we are on the data part. It's been kind of crazy. And as soon as anybody I had worked with on the data side, it feels like they all needed a web development project, and they've just been knocking on the door for that. So it's definitely helped run the business, no longer having to outsource as much, being able to do things internally, and no longer having to push people away saying we only did half of the stack.
Completely fair. And I'd love to, I'm glad that these tools were able to kind of help you go forward and build. But I'd love to hear more like deeper about your experience as a veteran. How does Wyncode support veterans? And Sean, obviously I open this up to you as well.
Yes, so I am a veteran as well. When I came to Wyncode, I had already been out of the military for 12 years. So I had used up all my veteran benefits by that time. But I will say that there was another veteran in my class that was having some issues with his GI Bill, and it was amazing to see how Wyncode really treated him like family, really helped him out, kept him in there as long as he can, and he ended up graduating. You know, they kind of gave him that opportunity as a veteran, knowing that he was trustworthy and that the government would eventually pay. They kept him around and they helped him all the way to the end, and that was really nice to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in terms of my experience, you know, the support that Wyncode provided before, during, and after, you know, the entire course, it was second to none. The process of applying for the GI Bill was very straightforward, and then just relaying that and giving the COE certificate of eligibility to Wyncode was also seamless. I mean, everything was done, you know, on the back end. You literally just needed to submit it, and everything was taken care of. So it was fantastic in terms of support. You know, it's full scope, you know, just in terms from the very first day to the last day. There's also a veteran support chat that has been created in the Wyncode Slack channel. So absolutely tons of benefits, and Wyncode is very, very much pro veterans.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that. Liz, can we take a bird's eye view just on boot camps and a little bit about course support? Can you tell us a little bit about course support? What are your qualifications on whether or not a company should be included on course support or not?
Yeah, so course report, like I mentioned before, is a resource for students who are choosing a coding bootcamp. Today we have over 600 schools in our directory, over 30,000 reviews from alumni. Wyncode itself has over 300 reviews. So a lot of alumni kind of signaling to other students, prospective students, you know, how the schools are doing. And yeah, any bootcamp that is immersive, is instructor-led, and that's teaching tech skills. So we have bootcamps that teach coding, mobile development, data science, cybersecurity, UX design, a couple of other skills. We want to list that school on course report. We don't include schools that are like day-long workshops or self-guided resources, though we do think that those are cool. We're really looking at those career-changing, immersive boot camps. And then as for quality control, as I mentioned before, we have, you know, over 30,000 reviews of boot camps on course report. So we kind of like to let graduates and alumni weed, you know, kind of help weed out schools that aren't living up to their promise. But we also always want to give special recognition to schools that are doing the work, schools that accept the GI Bill, like Sean was talking about. That is definitely not every school. It's not every boot camp that has done the work and put in the time and effort to get accepted for, or get approved for the GI Bill. Or, you know, sharing their alumni outcomes in a transparent way, or even partnering with workforce development groups in their city or state. You know, we like to give those schools some extra love. But yeah, we you know, you can use course report to kind of sift through a ton of reviews. We've got a lot of like interviews with alumni and instructors and around the world. So check it out if you haven't already.
I mean, I'm hoping this everyone will go check us out because we have so many great reviews on there. I really appreciate you giving us some insight there. I'd love to just deep dive just a little bit more and say, what are your thoughts on boot camps versus traditional schooling? Do you think they're more effective, or do you just view them differently?
Yeah, so I mean, I spend most of my days talking to alumni from boot camps around the world. So I'll tell you kind of what I hear from them. So most boot campers obviously start by teaching themselves, and I think that they should. I'm sure most of the alumni on this panel will tell you that they taught themselves some code in some way, even if it was like doing a code academy exercise or something like that. But then they kind of get to the point in their journey where they need some real guidance and mentorship, a structured curriculum, and like career support if they really want to change careers. So I kind of view that as one path into this tech career. I think plenty of people have taught themselves to code, but and have really great careers, but they kind of have probably taken a couple years at least. Somewhere else on the spectrum is the traditional kind of computer science degree, and I think there's certainly value in that as well, though you're looking at 4 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, unfortunately, with some programs, and learning a lot of theory. So, I mean, when we get this question all the time, like, should I go to college? Like, should I do a CS degree or should I do a coding boot camp? And before 2020, I actually very rarely said that coding boot camps were like a replacement for a traditional four-year degree. And I would say they were like a replacement for a graduate degree or an MBA, right? But obviously 2020 has changed everything. And so I think a lot of, incoming freshmen or even sophomores are having to decide if they want to pay a ton of money for a university degree, even though they're kind of missing out on that networking and community, or if they should take a gap year and do something like a boot camp. But ultimately, I think both types of education can and should coexist. But there's clearly a need for this type of flexible, immersive, I call it high ROI, high return on investment education. Even though all the ways into tech are valid for sure.
No, completely fair. And I'd love to tap into our alumni and hear. Liz mentioned that a lot of people they learn to code before Wyncode, just by themselves. For any of the alumni here on the panel, were you learning to code before Wyncode? And what's the difference between learning by yourself and learning with Wyncode? Anyone can answer this one.
So another good friend of mine is a mobile developer. So she was trying to teach me C#. And then I finally decided, I was like, no, you know what? I want to take more of a professional approach, because she was doing it on her spare time. And while it was great and greatly appreciated, I needed something to really dedicate myself and say, okay, I'm going to actually start a career in this. I did Codecademy, and I had already done Codecademy in the past too. But for me, I need someone there to tell me, Diana, sit down, pay attention. And I never liked online schooling, but at Wyncode, you get that same feeling as if you were actually in the classroom.
I love it. I'll keep it open, and if anyone else wants to give their response to this.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I had absolutely zero experience with code, like absolutely zero. I had looked over shoulders of coworkers in the past and saw, matrix looking screen, having absolutely no idea what was going on. And outside of the pre-coursework that Wyncode assigned, absolutely none. And in terms of Codecademy and everything else, they're fantastic resources to use. But me personally, I would not be where I am today or as successful as I am without Wyncode. I would not be able to have taught myself, just because I don't have the discipline, similar to what Diana was saying. I don't have the discipline to have myself sit down and force myself to, just kind of go through the process and absorb everything. So yes, it was definitely a crash course, beginning the program, but yeah, I could not have done it without Wyncode.
I love it. I love it. I'll open it up. Anyone else want to respond to that question?
Yeah, I can respond. I did use it. I guess I never really learned. I would just Google what I needed to for the small little thing that it came up, and I would just copy and paste the code in until something worked, and I would walk away not knowing exactly what it did at all. So yeah, I didn't learn much before, and that's part of that's just because I'm very impatient at times. And that was awesome with Wyncode because everything was so fast paced and they taught you everything one step at a time, and that helped.
I've been hearing a lot of Win love from our alumni, and I absolutely love it. Anyone want to chime in and let us know what was your favorite part about being a student at Wyncode?
Ooh, okay. I guess.
Take it well.
Sure. Well, I'm an instructor now, so I guess I shouldn't be answering this one, but honestly, the camaraderie, like it's everyone's going through this process with you, and you may feel like you're struggling, but at the end of the day, like everyone is struggling kind of, because it's a brand new concept, but you're going through that process together, and you're all learning as a big group. So you can actually go to each and every person in your cohort and be like, man, like, or do you get this? And like, someone might will, and everyone is more than happy to like assist you. And, there's always TAs available. Associate instructors always stay late to help students. So like just the cohesiveness of the community that Wyncode provides was really my favorite part. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing, right? It's a very powerful Kool-Aid. I loved it. Tasted awesome. Will and I were in the same class, and we became excellent friends. He even worked with me for a bit afterwards before we went to Wyncode. Tommy was one of our TAs, and any issues that I run into that are just too hard, I reach out to Tommy. Sometimes he takes a day to get back to me, but he'll still get back to me. So I think that was the biggest takeaway. I mean, not that the coding and learning the web development wasn't, but the biggest takeaway was just the network that was built, like the friendships that were built. It's not to take away from the military. I did some training in the military. It was also like day and night, 24 hours a day. You go through the suck in military terms, and you come out as better friends. And Wyncode was always the same thing, right? I think I spent like 12, 14, 15 hours a day in Wyncode with Will and with Rob. We would work closer together. And that was the biggest takeaway in 10 weeks. You became really close with these people. And then after just 10 weeks, you're able to do a lot more than you think you could, learn in 10 weeks. That was pretty impressive as well.
I love it. We keep hearing all this wonderful Wyncode love, but I want to make sure we have an objective thought and understanding. So Liz, I'd love to tap into you for a second. I know you're focused on helping people find the right bootcamp. I'd love to learn more about how you came up with the idea for course support and how people can best utilize course support to figure out what bootcamp is best for them.
Yeah, sure. And I love what you were saying, Emilio, about the alumni network. I feel like alumni networks, like strong, vocal, active alumni networks, are really a mark of a great boot camp. So as you're looking for boot camps, like if you can tell that there are alumni that are like still giving the boot camp a lot of love, that is a great sign. But yeah, I mean, just to back up, like we started Course Report in 2013 when there were about 10 or 20 boot camps. And at the time, I'll just like do a quick story. At the time, Jeff Casimir, who now runs a great boot camp in Colorado called Turing School, was working at the CTO with the CTO at the tech company that I was working at in DC to run this internal boot camp called Hungry Academy. And they basically like took non-technical folks from the company, customer service representatives, et cetera, and put them through this 6-month boot camp. And then they all got jobs as developers afterwards. So like 10 years ago, we saw that model worked, and I'm still like in touch with a lot of those graduates today. They're doing really cool things. So yeah, once there were like 20 schools, we were like, there definitely needs to be some kind of third-party resource for students who are trying to choose between these 20 schools, a Princeton review of, coding boot camps, if you will. And today there are over 600 schools in our directory. So like the bootcamp industry has really boomed. There are just so many more schools to choose from. So, in a lot of ways we kind of grow with the bootcamp industry, but it's been really cool to see bootcamps like evolve and grow and kind of meet the new needs of really like hundreds of thousands of students around the world at this point. But yeah, how to use Course Report. I mean, like I've mentioned a couple times, we have tons of alumni reviews, and that's a great place to start. We have a tool on our site that will match you with schools that make sense for your, where you want to learn and what you want to learn, things like that. But as you're doing your research, I do always recommend that even if you're looking for an online boot camp, which, let's be honest, most people are right now. Even if, Wyncode we think of as an in-person school, they're teaching remotely right now. So just like an in-person boot camp, like an online coding boot camp is not a silver bullet. You need to be, passionate about the career path. You need to have at least the grit and determination to fail and keep going. And a lot of boot camps are kind of putting, intro classes, things like that online for free. And I'm sure Raquel and Thierry, you can expand on that. Let us know like what is actually online for free right now. But interact with the boot camp before you actually sign up. Other pieces of advice as you're doing that research is always ask about student outcomes. Any school worth its weight should be able to show you their outcomes, and tell you what the average starting salary is when people graduate, how many people actually graduate, how many people get jobs when they graduate, and in what amount of time. Those are super important questions to be asking, because at the end of the day, these are not accredited programs. Like, the way that we know that they are successful is by their ability to get their students jobs. So you want to know that the school is actually getting their students jobs before you make the decision. But yeah, I think that's my high level advice. I could talk about this up literally all day though, so I will stop myself.
I love it. Well, let's deep dive into outcomes. For our alumni on the panel, does Wyncode help you get a job? Personal anecdotes are definitely encouraged.
So I can kick this one off. So they didn't help me get a job because I already had one, but I did hire 2 people from Wyncode, and I've had clients reach out to me and ask me for if I knew any developers, if I can recommend any developers, and I just try to send them always to Win Talent, and they're always open to having that discussion.
I love it. I love it. Wyncoders hiring Wyncoders.
I'll jump in as well. So one of my first jobs after Wyncode was working for Emilio, actually. But prior to working with Emilio, I did get an interview with another company. I don't know if I should name drop companies or not, but that Wyncode did set up. Luckily, I did not take that one because due to COVID, they laid off that team like 2 months after that interview. So luckily, I made the correct decision and joined Emilio. But yeah, to answer the question more directly, definitely my first interview, I had a follow-up interview scheduled and everything, but then COVID hit and changed the outlook on that. But yes.
I love it. Thank you for the transparency on that. Tommy, I think you were trying to say something.
Oh yeah, I agree with what Will said, Emilio, and everything you said about job support that Wyncode provides. Not only did they help me get my first job after Wyncode, but when that company was struggling slightly with it, I guess they were bought out, and I guess the new management had different ideas to take the company, and Wyncode knew about that, being a long-time hiring partner. So they reached out to myself and all the other graduates that also worked at that company. We had about 20 people there from Wyncode, and they helped those people move on to different and similar careers. So I'm at my second job now because of Wyncode.
Oh,
Something I want to highlight
lifetime
real
job
quick.
support.
Oh, sorry. Something I just want to highlight real quick is the career week that Wyncode does. It is a huge help. They help you. So after you complete the course, there's a week-long career week where they help you, set up your LinkedIn profile, create your resumes, create templates for forwardables, which you'll learn what that is once you guys are actually, at that point in time. And then, I actually found my position that I'm at right now through a family friend, it was organic. but the positions that I applied to were all from Wyncode, and it was pumped to me by Beto and the rest of the team. And, you know, to this day, I got a call from Ingrid last week about an opportunity from WinTalent. So I've had a few come my way just because, you know, they're that on top of the game in terms of, because the end game of Wyncode, yes, is to teach you to learn, but it's to secure you a job and a career. Yeah, not a job, a career. So the support is unparalleled.
Awesome.
And
All about
so
support here at Wyncode.
I can also say that I'm in constant contact with Tahira. I talk to Tahira maybe 1 to 2 times a week, maybe even more than my best friend. The support is incredible, and that 1 week of career week is amazing. Though meeting every week for WinWork, also amazing. Keeps you on your toes and feeling like you're responsible to actually going out there and finding a job for yourself, because yes, they help you a lot, but you need to put in the work for yourself as well.
I love it. I love it. And yes, for all our wonderful conversations, I love it too. So for everyone on the panel, I'm just going to ask one by one, what's your advice for people who are interested in taking the bootcamp? Are coding bootcamps worth it? I'm going to go ahead and start with Emilio. What are your thoughts?
I can say coming out of the program, I think it's definitely worth it. I mean, I also went to college for finance. I didn't do anything with tech. But technology moves so fast, right? Even coming out of Wyncode and just being 12 months out of Wyncode, like there's like 10 other frameworks and 10 other things that people say you should use from what we learned 12 months ago. I found that to be very beneficial. The fact that you're in there in 10 weeks, you're out, you're not going to be an expert by any means, but you know enough to know where to go ask for help. You know how to Google things, you know how to make things happen. And that's really what you learn in Wyncode, right? You're going to learn the basics. You're going to learn how to figure things out. You're going to learn how to get through the struggle and make something work in 10 weeks. And that was excellent for me. You know, that I was able to just take just enough knowledge to run with it and go from there. So I definitely, there's no, there would be no hesitation knowing what I know now if the decision was to either do Wyncode again or join some kind of part-time online program that takes 2 years.
I love it. Sean, what are your advice for the people who are here on the line who are interested in taking the bootcamp? And let us know, do you think bootcamps are worth it?
So I'll keep mine short and sweet. My advice is do it. 100%, just do it. It was the best career professionally wise, you know, in terms of professional development that I've ever made. Even if I'm not working directly as a web developer right now, but because of what I learned in Wyncode, I just have that familiarity, and it's enabled me to just, you know, progress, you know, leaps and bounds, as opposed to not having to do it. And it's just opened so many doors, and it's helped me lay a foundation for the next 10 years of my career and allow me to transition into IT. So, you know, don't second guess it. If you're interested, trust me, it'll be worth it.
Awesome. And Liz, this is your industry. This is where you're working in. What are bootcamps, are coding bootcamps worth it? And if you have any advice for people who are interested in taking bootcamp, we're excited to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are the real stories. What I keep hearing is that a bootcamp just really makes the career change so much faster. I will say that we do a couple of industry reports each year, and one of those is an alumni survey of real bootcamp graduates over the last 8 or 9 years. And I mean, I get asked this question literally all the time by, you know, potential students, but also by journalists and parents, honestly, a lot. You know, are boot camps delivering? Like, are graduates really actually successful? Is a boot camp worth it? All of kind of the same question, but I think the answer is still yes. And I can just talk a little bit about some of the data that we find just in aggregate of all of the bootcamp alumni. And I know that Wyncode also shares their outcomes as well. But you know, a majority of boot campers say that they've had a job since graduating that uses the technical skills that they learned at a boot camp. About 83% say that. before boot camp, 60% of boot campers were employed full-time. After boot camp, that shoots up to about 82%. The average starting salary in general is about $67,000. That obviously varies very much with location, but that also only gets better with time. So salaries increase as alumni, stay in tech and get their second and third jobs. Obviously, those salaries mean nothing if boot campers don't see like an actual salary lift. So we track that too, that kind of before after look at what a boot camp can do. And this last year, we're still analyzing the data for this year, but this last year we saw a 54% salary lift for all graduates, about $24,000 change in salary, which is not trivial. And yeah, finally, we always ask if students were like how satisfied students were with their bootcamp experience on a scale of 1 to 10, and that last year was 8.8 out of 10. So, I mean, when people ask me, is a bootcamp worth it? Those are kind of the factors that I'm looking at. And I mean, I think yes, and you can hear all of these alumni, their stories as well, I think point to yes too.
I love it. I love a data-driven response. Thank you for those.
I know it's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of numbers, but it's really interesting to see how boot camps are kind of affecting, people across the board and not just at specific schools, even though Wyncode does a really great job too.
Absolutely. And Diana, you're a recent graduate through our boot camp, so you have the most in-depth kind of response to this question. Let us know. Do you think they're worth it? And what advice do you have for people who are taking the boot camp?
So 100% worth it. My only regret is not doing it sooner. My advice would maybe be to really look into if this is something you really want to do. Not the boot camp itself, but the career itself. Coding is not easy. But if you enjoy it, it's wonderful. So definitely boot camps are a really good way to get into that, in my opinion, in my own experience.
I love it. Tommy, same question. What do you think? Is it worth it? Any advice you have for the people who are interested in taking this boot camp?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely worth it. Probably one of the best choices I've made in my life. Everything I learned in college, I forgot almost immediately. Maybe it was just the way it was taught, or just I wasn't very interested. I bounced around majors so many times just because I couldn't find anything I was passionate about. I didn't even know I would like coding until my first week actually doing it. You just never know until you really know. But I know myself, my personality, and I think most people know themselves better than anyone else. So only you can answer the questions that is this right for you. Like I can tell you all about how much I love it, how I spend my whole time coding, looking at code, my weekends looking at code, but that doesn't mean that you will like it. Most of the students I've taught or work with do love it, and they're messaged me even after they graduate, just talking about it, all the new packages that are coming out. We do like happy hours just to, sync up on what people are up to, what their companies are working with. Everyone in my company is super passionate. Like, I guess there's a balance between career and passion, but I think as long as you can find that right balance and you know that you're someone who loves solving problems and not just going through the motions day by day just to get a paycheck, then I think this would be the right choice to make. And best advice is to practice, practice, practice. The pre-work is not enough. I know that because I didn't do much extra for the pre-work. And I had a hard time at the beginning. Eventually, you get used to the pace, but some people, they may find that the word bootcamp is not like, they may underestimate what a bootcamp really means. And, it really means a bootcamp. I'm there 12 to 14 hours a day, to make sure I get my work done and to try to get ahead in the upcoming weeks.
No, it's all about the dedication, all about the time, and whether or not it's the right fit. Speaking to someone who you found that it's the right fit, and you also now teach here at one of at Wyncode, a boot camp. Will, what do you think? What's your advice? Are boot camps worth it? Absolutely.
Short and sweet. Absolutely. Coming from a a background with absolutely no web development experience, maybe MySpace, if I didn't even know I was doing HTML at that time. I was just, making my site look nice. That I had no experience, and I felt fully prepared after the 10 weeks and found myself with a new career path. So boot camps are absolutely worth it. It is, it's going to take a lot of time and effort on your end, but if you're willing to give that time and effort and really bet on yourself to really change your career, it's absolutely worth it. And I would recommend it to anyone. I do recommend it to everyone I know that's looking for a career change. And I would recommend it to even, like, I would shout it from the mountaintops, honestly. So absolutely, it is worth it.
Awesome. This panel, you guys have been absolutely amazing, but I know everyone here on the line doesn't just want to hear my questions for you. So I'd love to open it up to everyone here on the panel. As Raquel mentioned, just unmute yourself to ask a question.
Yes, you can just unmute yourself and also state your name as well, so we get to hear from you for your question. Marcus, I'm going to put you on the spot if we don't have any questions. I'm sure you do.
Hi, Mom. Marcus, I just signed up for the course. I heard about you guys a couple weeks back, and I wanted to learn coding on my own, but as I know, I need a little bit of help from you guys. So what motivated everyone to step out of what they were doing prior to coding to pursue a career in that field?
Great, and any of the panelists feel free to answer. Maybe Emily or Diana would care to answer.
You want to take it, Diana?
Yeah, sure. So definitely, I was in a place in my life where I felt like I needed to do something that I actually enjoyed. Again, I am like, I think Tommy said, I love everything. So if you put me to cut hair, I'm going to love cutting hair. It doesn't really matter. I love everything. But I felt like it was time for me to do something that I wasn't just going to love for a little bit. It was something that I was going to love for a very long time. And it was going to continuously challenge me daily, because technology, it changes every day and you need to keep up with it. And that's what I love about the whole tech field. And that's why I decided to finally go with it.
Beautiful. And we have a question that was dropped in the chat by Michael. How are you able to balance the boot camp and your personal life if work? Oh, we're getting into time management. Was it easy to make those changes?
So for me, the first few weeks were a little bit tough. It was so much so that I even got sick because I was so stressed out. But it was just all me mentally. But I loved it. And you start to get used to the schedule. It's just making yourself a schedule and making sure that you put yourself as a priority too, because while yes, you do need to learn these things and the course is intense, you need to give yourself time to breathe, relax, and just be you. That's what worked for me.
I love the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I took a little bit of a different approach. I sat my wife down. Actually, my wife sat me down. I sat my 1-year-old down. I told him I was not going to exist for 10 weeks. And I had to do that just knowing the way I am. I knew that I was going to jump in 100%. So I would say that those 10 weeks, I committed myself to not having a personal life, because you only have 10 weeks. There's so many TAs available. There's so many assistants, and you only have them for 10 weeks, 24 hours a day. They're still there afterwards, but during those 10 weeks, the TAs are paid to be there. So I made sure that I was there from day through night and taking the most advantage of it as I could.
Awesome, Amelia. Thanks for sharing. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Hi, everyone. I'm Max Tolnick. I just moved to Miami from Tel Aviv. and have been working in, B2B software sales. So in the space, but, obviously not on the coding side of things. I'm really interested in folks who are working, for established companies, to hear from them about what the interview process looked like. What was the technical, interview that you had to go through, coming out of a boot camp? Did you feel that it was, maybe watered down or different, or there's a different expectation than someone coming from a CS degree? And just, how much time kind of post boot camp did you need to transition from like your knowledge to a place in which you felt you were able to, go in, do a technical interview and land that job? And then I guess the last part of my never-ending question is, in terms of the expectation of that first job, I've heard kind of different, I've heard different things from folks who have gone through boot camps, and just from reading on different websites. Are you taking, the first job, if you, whatever, if you go to Wix here in Miami, are you taking that first role for like 7 to 15 months, and then if you don't get promoted, leaving? Like, what's the expectation in that first role? Is it long term? Is it just kind of a junior, junior role that is to get experience in your portfolio and move from? That's my questions. Thanks.
Question, Max. So I feel like to sum it up a little bit, and that was great insight, Max. Kind of like the question would be, how was the interviewing process, and the steps and the journey of getting hired? And then after you got hired, how did that look like? Did you stay with the same company, and how did that transition go in the long term?
Perfect. Yeah.
So I'll chime in terms of my experience. I was cohort 36. I'm not sure what you guys are on right now, and I know the curriculum's changed and things have been flexed because of pandemic. 44?
40.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So during my career week, we had different personnel come in that either were past graduates or just developers in the industry that help you. There's probably like I think a full 2 days that help you do practice technical interviews. They give you a bunch of different, and I believe I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had interviewed with Facebook, Amazon, Google, a bunch of different, of the big, tech firms in the industry. And he literally had questions that they present to you during technical interviews. And we practiced walking through those, you broke up into groups. And so there's a ton of preparation that Wyncode provides to get you ready for that if it does happen to you. I personally, for the job that I'm right now, I didn't have to do a technical interview, but I felt very confident and ready for that in the situation that it did come up.
And just to add up, touch up on it. So like I said before, I'm an instructor. So I find that most technical assessments are, the basics of whatever language you're learning. So here at Wyncode, we teach JavaScript, and it's more basic JavaScript knowledge, in terms, I can get into the details. I'm not sure if you have a coding background or not, Max, but it's making sure if you really know the language, know the different methods that come across with the syntax, how it's written. And most of the time, the technical assessment, they don't really, they want you to, solve the problem, but it's more about the way you think about the problem. And if you're able to communicate your thought process, mm-hmm. A lot of employers will, okay, he's on the right track, or they're on the right track, and they're able to communicate well. I get why they're thinking this, and you may not solve the problem at the end, but just because you verbalize your thought process, it can help get you that job. And to answer the second part, I personally have never worked with like a big corporation. I've worked for mainly startups, but if I were to get offered, coming right out of a boot camp, get offered a position like at Wix, like you said, I would probably take it just to boost my resume, and then also build my skills at that company. And then if I don't get a promotion, I would look to go elsewhere afterwards. But I think mainly coming out of boot camp, you still have to have that growth mindset and, really say, okay, I'm still learning, right? Like now I'm being trained at a new company, and I'm still learning and growing my skills, and just become a better developer each and every day. I hope that answers your question.
A quick segue on Will's, comment. I 100% agree with him. I don't want to scare anybody off and make it seem like, that there's, you're going to get like a Facebook loaded question, in the interview. But yes, exactly what he said. It's not so much about getting the answer correctly in the interview. It's about your thought process and, showing and demonstrating how you can think logically and kind of create a solution for whatever problem they're presenting you. So you don't need to get the answer right, but if you can demonstrate that, which Wyncode prepares you to do, you will be successful.
Beautiful. We got tons of great questions as well. I do see a couple of upcoming students that are going to be here. So one of the questions I always get is, how can I best prepare for this program? What are some of the things that if you're entering a coding bootcamp, you should know and prepare beforehand? So I'm going to give you guys a little merry-go-round for you to give me your top 3 advices to succeed in a bootcamp and how to make the best of it. I guess we can start with Tommy.
Sure thing. Yeah, this is a great question, and I think I get it a lot from anyone who's looking to sign up, whether it be friends or family, or just students that just are in which direction. The best way to prep for it would just be do as much pre-work as you can outside of what we give you. There's so many free resources out there, free Codecamp, Team 3 House, Front-End Masters, and they do a great job of explaining the material in a very basic way. You won't, be able to build anything, fully fleshed out from just those basic tutorials, but at least you'll get exposure to the language, because that's all what we're writing. We're just writing a new language. And if you're seeing for the first time and in the bootcamp in your 10 weeks, you're going to be trying to, take in some brand new syntax and comprehend what it's supposed to do. But if you have taken at least a month or a month and a half studying this beforehand, none of it will be unique to you. It won't be foreign, and you'll just be able to, spend your time in class ingesting and comprehending rather than, spending half the day bewildered by what's on the screen.
That's super true. What about you, Sean? Any top tips, must-have, must-dos before starting?
Yeah, so to second what Tommy said, definitely do as much pre-course work as you can. We'll do all the pre-course work that's assigned to you, but take it upon yourself to do a little bit more. I went into it with 0 experience. I only did the pre-course work, and Will was one of my TAs, so was Tommy. They could probably attest to how much I bothered them, for just questions throughout the entire course. And that's a testament to how much support you do have, because literally 24/7 they are available. But the better you prepare beforehand, the easier you're going to succeed. So that's probably the first one, but also second one, just take it seriously, double down. I know there's been a lot of questions in the chat about, full-time course, part-time course, what makes sense. You have a job, regardless of what you do, just take it seriously, double down, just understand the benefits that are going to come to you, post-course, in terms of just the network, the family support, camaraderie, and just job opportunities and career development that you're going to have. And yeah, I think it's pretty much those are 2 most important things. Just take it seriously, and also just utilize your resources. Don't be scared. So personally, being a veteran, and maybe Emilio can attest to this, there's a attitude of just kind of keep your head down and don't ask for help, but ask for help. Ask for help. If you don't know something, raise your hand. If you are confused, or if you need any clarity, just ask for help. Regardless of what it is, the staff is incredible. It doesn't matter if it's a dumb question, smart question, regardless of what it is, they're going to be there for you, and they'll be more than happy to guide you in the right direction.
You guys are so sweet.
I know everyone keeps saying to do all of the prep work that you can, but I just want to back that up with a little bit of data, because obviously that's my main contribution here. In that same alumni outcomes report that we do, students who were complete beginners before they did a boot camp, their average salary after the boot camp was $64,000. And folks that just did a little bit of self-teaching in their free time before they started at a boot camp, their average salary was like 69. So, I mean, it's worth it.
Gotta put in those hours. What about you, Will?
All right. So I love this question. It's a question I get a lot from incoming students. Like, what's the most I can do to take advantage of this course? And my biggest advice is always, if you're not asking questions, you're not taking advantage of the course. When I was part of the course, and Emilio can attest to this, like I would know something, but in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm not really completely sure if I know it. I would raise my hand and be like, hey, so am I understanding this correctly? And it's just a check for understanding, but I wanted to raise my hand and make sure I was getting everything out of that course. Even though I kind of knew I did comprehend what was being taught. But if you're really not asking questions, you're not going to get the full benefits of this course. Diana was one of my students, and she can attest to you. I'm like, and she would say, no, I don't have any questions. And I kind of like dig it a little bit more. I'm like, no, she's going to ask me a question, right? Because I know that every student has questions. There's no way you get it the first time around. And I mean, some students do, don't get me wrong. I mean, but I know I wasn't one of those students where I was like, okay, I got it. They explained something brand new, a whole new language I've never been exposed to. I got it the first time explained to me. Like, no, I wasn't like that. So I constantly ask questions and you'll be successful. So that'd be my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, Will also hosts a lot of our intro to JavaScript events. So make sure that if you have not registered for any of our other events that we have for Wyncode before your class is starting, to do so. So the link is going to be dropped in the chat for you guys to start looking at what events you can attend. And we code from the get-go. Like, we start coding on day 1, we start coding on event number 1. So make sure to take advantage of that opportunity, because if you're learning to code prior to the boot camp on your own, during these events is the time you can ask Will questions, be like, hey, I'm trying to do this. What are some of the things that I can do? And really get help along the way. Beautiful. Emilia, you want to chip in?
Yep, I could add to that. I would say the number one thing is the pre-work. Just like Tommy and the others have said too, you're not going to learn how to do it with the pre-work, right? You can't just skip Wyncode and do the pre-work, right? But it's just a matter of being exposed to it. So when it's said in class, when it's reviewed in class, you already know what a variable is, or at least know the word variable. So you're not trying to process, wait, what's a variable, as they're trying to explain how a variable works, right? So just being exposed to it, just looking at it over once. Don't kill yourself and try to build the website before you even start, but just try to put your eyes on it, right? And you could see it clear as day in class, the people that didn't do the pre-work and the people that did do the pre-work. So if you want to look at it from like a selfless standpoint, if everybody does their pre-work, you'll get so much more out of the class. So that was my biggest thing, was just put your eyes on it, show the commitment a little bit before the class. Number 2, I would say is plan out your 10 weeks. Understand what you're going to commit to outside of Wyncode and what you're not. Don't deviate from that plan and stick to that plan, and that's definitely going to help. And number 3 is ask those questions, right? Like Will said, we'll ask a lot of questions, but we would also ask each other questions too, right? Understanding that we were in the process of learning, we would get together and we would like throw things by each other and then disagree. We're like, no, you got that wrong. And then we would go to a team and like, hey, what do you think? But just being able to explain to each other that didn't know what we were looking at, what we thought we understood, was we were able to see so many different points of views. And then we would go to Tommy and he would just do it for us. No, I'm kidding. Then we would go to the TAs and ask the questions. And then at that point, you understood it so good because you explained to somebody that was learning what you thought you learned. They explained it to you. You saw that perspective. And then you went to somebody that knew what they were doing and you got that perspective again. So that would be the last one. But yeah. And Will did ask a lot of questions.
And I don't think Will consider that he asked a lot of questions, right, Will?
Oh, absolutely asked a lot of questions. No shame in those questions. I was asking.
Sin pena. We like to keep it real at Wyncode for sure. Now, I do know that a couple of the incoming students that are already registered, that are currently interviewing, that are currently speaking with admissions, are with us tonight. So Again, it is 7:43 on the clock. We do have a couple of minutes for you guys to ask questions. So this is the time to do it. These individuals here have taken time out of their busy web development days and coding days and long nights to be here with you to give you the opportunity to ask questions. So I'm gonna start name dropping people for you guys to ask questions, but the floor is open. Definitely unmute yourselves or drop them in the chat. I'll be able to read them out loud for you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela, and I am a previous bootcamp grad from another bootcamp. And I'm looking to go into the UXUI immersive program just because I've been doing a little bit of freelance work, and I definitely want that customer-centric design principle whenever making a website. So I do have a current job right now. I've been in this role for about a year as a full stack web developer. And I just want to know, what is something you wish you knew before starting your first job? Even though I've been working for a year, there's definitely some tips I can still take, whether it's debugging, obviously using Git. So if there's anything you all would recommend, because I'm still a newbie, that would be great. Thank you.
Great question, Daniela.
Ooh.
Do most of your work in Adobe XD first, and then go code it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great tip, Danny. Sean, you got any tips?
So the question was what you would prefer to know or what you would have liked to know or hindsight before your first job, right?
Yes.
Make sure your GitHub is green across the board. If you don't know what GitHub is, it's essentially like when I'm assuming you will. Do you guys still use GitHub?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. So make sure your GitHub is green because prospective employers will look at that as probably, one of the main things just to see if you are actively coding. So just make sure, you have that as a tracker to show that you are, because again, like people have said before, coding and programming languages change from one day to the next. So if like for me, for example, unfortunately, because of my job, we're not using GitHub. So, my next job, there is going to be a gap that I'm going to have to test to. So, just, keep your GitHub up to date. Keep your GitHub up to date.
Great advice.
So that was a very good question. I mean, because you can take that question so many ways. What I wish I knew, I wish I knew that I still needed to learn so much because I was like, oh, I'm confident. I'm a web developer now. I was very confident coming out of the program. And then I worked for Emilio, and then Emilio was like, all right, well, we got to start doing all this different data analytics. I'm like, oh, let me take a step back. And I started Googling everything again. So like, just keep that growth mindset because you're still going to be learning on that job on a daily basis. So that's never be closed-minded, be open to learning new concepts and new things every single day. I was very confident coming out of Wyncode. So I was just taken aback by that, but I'm glad I went through that process where I had to continue learning because now I'll never take my knowledge for granted. I know that I have so much more to learn, even though I feel like I'm pretty confident in my skills. I know there's so much more to learn, and I look forward to it every day.
Okay. Will is always learning and always growing and always sharing his expertise with the world. We are so fortunate to have him. I learned a little bit about him today in a holiday session at work that we did. And it's just a pleasure to be working with genuine people. That's one of the main takeaways. If you learn anything about Wyncode and about, our coding bootcamps but more specifically about Wyncode, is that the people here are genuine. They genuinely care and they go beyond. This is not just a job for us. This is how we give back to our community. Many of us grown up in Miami, are part of the tech community, have been involved in tech for a long time. And when we think about what are the kind of people that we want to surround ourselves with, what is the type of environment that I want to be around, Wyncode just keeps fostering a growth mentality, a humbling mentality, we in this together and we can get through it mentality. And that goes a very long way when you're considering a long career change, a complex career change like it is getting into tech, and also a career change where you might not necessarily know a lot of people. So we still have a couple of minutes. I'm gonna end a little bit earlier on time, just to give you guys some of your evening backs to go spend out with family. It's Christmas time, so don't want to take up too much of that. But any last question, thoughts that you would like to share with any of our alumni panels, or any questions for Liz, where she sees so many different coding boot camps, and then not just Wyncode as one of them?
Would the Windfall Academy be teaching us how to use the Macbooks terminal? Because I heard there's a code you're not supposed to type into the computer and it'll just wipe the whole board.
That's a week one.
Yeah.
Week one.
There's a lot of things you shouldn't type into your terminal, but yeah, that's definitely week one there. You'll start to navigate your computer through your terminal instead of with a mouse pretty soon. I remember our instructor, Andy, he was like anti-mouse. He never used a mouse. So you'll definitely learn a lot of the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, Marcus. I know we had another one there that was kind of a little cut off.
Yes, I'd like to ask Liz what makes a bootcamp great in her opinion, and why is Wyncode great for her to be speaking on behalf of Wyncode? Thank you.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I think you can look at a boot camp and obviously you want to look at outcomes. And that is one of my #1 pieces of advice to anyone who's researching boot camps. I'm curious for the panel, like as you were researching boot camps, if you looked at other schools and what you asked those, all the schools, and like why Wyncode stood out to you as well. But yeah, you want to look at outcomes, and then you want to look at the alumni network. Like pre-COVID, I would always say, reach out to alumni, ask to get a coffee, ask to do a call, ask your questions to real alumni. Now I think you can kind of do that. It's obviously going to be virtual, but like you can tell a lot, I think, by going to an info session, going to an intro class at a school, and like really meeting the instructors and understanding if you're going to vibe there. Obviously, like you can tell that Will is a really hands-on, like good instructor that cares about their students. Like you want to know the instructors before you enroll and pay $15,000. And what was the other question? Why is Wyncode good? Well, they've been around for a long time. They have a really great reputation in their community, which I think is really, really important. There are a lot of schools that have campuses, like 1 million campuses, and that is also, that's great. It's opening accessibility to, people in different cities, but Wyncode has a great reputation in Florida, in Miami, and has always been transparent about outcomes, and they have great reviews on Course Report. So I'm always down to we recommend Wyncode to folks who ask us about schools in Miami or in Florida all the time. And now that they're online, makes it a little bit easier for anyone to choose it. But yeah, do your research. I mean, obviously I run a bootcamp research platform. So like you got to choose the right school for you. And a lot of that is going to have to do with meeting the instructors and asking about outcomes before.
Yeah, and we love having you, Liz, come and share your values and insights and helping us out along the way, because the whole idea, I think, behind a boot camp and making these programs accessible is we need more developers. The world is craving for more developers. The world is craving for diverse developers. If you hear any top CEO in any top company, what they're looking for is passionate people from diverse backgrounds that are ready to work. And those are the types of students that we look for, and those are the types of students that we foster. Last couple of minutes for you to get your questions answered. Carolyn, I saw you jump in. Hey, what's up?
Hi, I do have a question for the alumni. From the different ways of how you learned the material, which was the best method that you learned the information? Like, was it projects or studying on your own, or the professor teaching you guys? Mm-hmm.
Great question. Anybody want to take that one?
So I think that depends all on what kind of learner you are. For me, I'm very much a hands-on person, so I like to see the instructor, but I like to do it myself at the same time. they allow you to do like code along. So while the instructor is teaching, you can go doing it yourself. And that for me is a good, it gives me like, I don't know if it's muscle memory, but it's what works for me. I know a lot of students would do like little study groups, and again, it's a community, and everybody really pitches in to help each other out, even the students themselves. It's not like a competition. Everyone's there to help each other. So that's really great. And I would say the projects are also really great because you feel like you're making something from scratch and making it so wonderful, and making something that looks so real, even though you're like, well, I just did this and I have no idea how I did it. So yeah, I would say it depends on you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think there's you can try every technique out there. You can try coding along, or you can try just listening in and rewatching the videos and coding along after. Because some people, everyone has different typing speeds, and some people can't keep up with the instructor because I'm assuming he's typing all day, he's typing very fast. So unless you're very confident in how fast you can type, I may just listen in and then apply what you learn after the course. Working with other students is great because then you can measure, where I guess generally how people are feeling. Is it just myself that's lost? Maybe I need to put in a little extra work. You can help teach other students. I think I find the easiest way to understand something, or just reaffirm that I understand something, is explaining to someone else. That helped me grow a lot. I feel like I would not have been able to pass my first interview if I didn't TA, because I spent my whole day explaining code. So when I interviewed for my first job, I explained it pretty well. If I didn't explain it well, I'm sure none of my students would know, anything that I was, I guess, presenting in class or during sessions, breakouts. So yeah, I would try everything first and see which one's best fits for you. Like the first few days, give it all a try. If you retain the best this way, then that's probably how you should go approach the course.
Great response, guys. We are on the last 5-minute mark. We're almost out of the Zoom. Carolyn, thank you so much for a great question. And I just saw something drop in the chat about Anna E. Do we give job support for students outside of Florida? Absolutely. And Tahira and her team are the ones who are in charge of job placement for anybody, not only within Florida, but also nationally. So Tahira, do you want to give a couple of insights?
Yes, absolutely. One of the reasons why my team is expanding and why we have more people on our team is really due to what's happening in this current coronavirus COVID situation, is that a lot of people are remote now and they're looking for roles that are not just in the city that they live in. So we spend a lot of time building relationships, developing those partnerships with companies and with organizations who are not just in South Florida. So we definitely provide support, not just for our South Florida students, but for our whole national students, all of us here who are looking for their new role.
Oh, great insider detail. Thank you so much, Tahira, for dropping in. And with 3 minutes left, I just want to take the time and just give you my deepest thank yous to every single one of our alumni that have come to just keep giving back to Wyncode. Thank you guys so much. It really means the world to a lot of these students, because this, you helping them allows them to figure out whether or not this is the right path for them. And, you thinking back on when you were in their shoes and, taking the time to give back to somebody that, is currently where you were before, really says a lot about your character. So everybody that joined us that is an alumni, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. And for everybody else that is in the chat, our participants, our incoming students, our Wyncode wanderers, I thank you so much for sticking with us all the way through the end. It has been a pleasure to get to talk to you a little bit more about Wyncode. Make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, on anybody that's here, Emilio, Will, Diana, Tommy, anybody that's here, feel free to send them a LinkedIn invitation. And then for questions about Wyncode admissions, how the process is, about scholarships. I saw a lot of questions about that too. Make sure to email me at admissions@wyncode.co. Shoot me a text. You can reach me anytime. Beat me like I forgot the cartoon for Disney. Somebody say it.
Impossible.
Impossible. Will coming in with the edit. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great evening. And I cannot wait to see you guys at our next event. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.